Welcome to Belgium, and more precisely to the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which welcomes in this month of May 2013 the third edition of what's undoubtedly the biggest classic cars event in Belgium. This year, classic car enthusiasts were spoilt for choice, with prestigious fields assembled containing some outstanding cars. Classic Endurance Racing 1 and 2, Trofeo Nastro Rosso, Sixties Endurance, Group C, Historic Formula 2, Spa Classic Jubilee, and not forgetting the touring car category. The organiser of the event expects another exceptional edition. It's the third edition and we're very happy with the evolution. We said from the start that we wanted to create the reference event in terms of classic cars on the circuit, and I think we're getting there. For 3 days, the Spa Classic allows the chance to relive the great days of motorsport. 9 fields of classic cars get out on the fast and undulating Belgian track during the day and at night. And despite the changeable weather, some famous names have made the trip. A real car enthusiast and a habitual Le Mans Classic competitor, François Fillon, the former French Prime Minister, has entered Spa for the first time. He goes in Classic Endurance Racing 2 in a BMW M1 from 1979, but also in the Trofeo Nastro Rosso with a beautiful Alfa Romeo Giulietta SZT from 1962. It's my first time on this magnificent circuit, which I've seen so often on the TV for F1 and endurance races. When you're at the wheel, it's even more impressive with the speed of the corners. It's a technical circuit and you need to be here more than once to learn it properly. There are greater sensations with the BMW as it's faster. There are still protos overtaking you at incredible speed. But it's a magnificent car. I like both cars and it means I can race more. Created in 2010, the Trofeo Nastro Rosso is there for sport and Italian GT cars from the end of the 50s and start of the 60s. 2 races are on the programme, and off the first start it's Vincent Gay in his Ferrari number 55 who gets away from pole. The Belgian Gay in his Ferrari 275 GT-BC from 1966 wins from the Maserati 250S of Marc Devy and the Bizzarrini 5300 GT driven by Jean-Luc Georges. He also goes on to win the second race. As for François Fillon, well, he ran into a few problems.
It's a bit
frustrating to have the smallest car in the field. It slides a bit, it's a bit sporty. I've got some strong memories from this race as a car tried to overtake me on the inside and clipped me, causing minor damage to the car. The Spa Classic gathers together jewels from motorsports history. And in this year, celebrating the 50th birthday of the Porsche 911, more than 50 of the German cars have braved the difficult weather conditions. There's also one category dedicated to the Stuttgart-based manufacturer, the Spa Classic Jubilee. Jean-Philippe Grand, a former driver and team manager at Graf Racing, explains to us the joy of taking part with a Porsche 911 RS.
I'm
having great fun with these cars because I've realised that this Porsche for its era was a very well-balanced car, a modern car that was ahead of its time. The car is nice to drive and there's no frustration there in driving cars from this era. The category was specially created for the occasion, and the fans got to see an emblematic Porsche. Entered in the competition in an RSR number 82, along with Michel Lecour, Raymond Narak starts from pole and shows he's in the mood to dominate his competitors. At the end of the 30-minute race, Raymond Narak wins easily from the Colombian Santiago Orjuela and the Swiss Didier Denat.
I'm
a modern car specialist, as everyone knows, but I really enjoy driving this car. I think Michel thinks the same thing as me. The car's really good, and we saw the difference today. We're much more respectful of the car because of the heritage of it, and that's not negligible. If these races exist, it's because of that heritage. There's a different spirit, and we're doing this with our mates. The Spa Classic also gives the clubs the chance to show off their impressive collections. We're heavily involved with the clubs. I think there are 1,000 club cars here. Nissan, Porsche, BMW, Lotus, TVR, Triumph, Ford and lots of other cars proving the growing success of the event. The important news in this 2013 edition of the Spa Classic is the introduction of 2 touring car fields that remind the passionate fans of the great years of the 24 Hours Francorchamps. Tourism is the emblematic field at Spa. The 24 Hours of Francorchamps was run for decades with touring cars. These cars are in the memories of the Belgian spectators, so we decided to get them running. This year is a first for us, so we've got 40 cars in one heat racing for an hour during the day, and then another for an hour at night. Good news, welcomed by an ex-Formula 1 driver and 5-time 24 Hours of Spa champion. Belgian Eric van der Poel is here as a spectator. Classic cars are very in right now and everybody's very committed to them. These cars made us dream and we really want to see them again. Not only see them but also smell them and hear them. Because when you see a 3-litre CSL BMW in the straight with a 6-cylinder engine like in the good old days, well, that's something. The first time I did the 24 Hours of Francorchamps was in the era of the Capris and the BMWs, and it was fabulous. These cars mark the history of Spa and the 24 Hours of Francorchamps. Seeing them again with their classic colours, seeing the drivers and mechanics who took part in this great occasion, well, I think it's really important for it to happen every year, and long may it continue. 2 one-hour touring car races are on the programme, and there are 38 cars taking part in this major thirst. When the lights go green, it's the Ford Escort 1600 RS from 1974, driven by Claude Boissy, that takes the lead ahead of the BMW 3-litre CSL of Rochman and the Ford Capri 2600 RS from 1973, driven by David Ferrer. In this 1-hour race, there's a mandatory driver change, and with the fatigue, forgetfulness can mean time lost. It's delicate too for the mechanics. Unfortunately, we've got problems with the fuel pump. It just cuts out, and apparently there's dirt in there, and so the engine loses power just like that. And to avoid breaking the engine, I decided to come in. Things were going really well up till then. The car won here in '71, so it was a chance to get the car out of the garage and show it off. After 21 laps of racing, it's the Ford Capri 2600 RS from 1973, driven by John of B and David Ferrer, that wins. A special guest for this 3rd edition of the Spa Classic is the boss of the Citroën racing team in the World Rally Championship. Yves Maton was satisfied with his stint in the legendary 1970 SM.
Je me suis très bien
I
amusé.
had a lot of fun.
Et
At the
à la
end, it was
fin,
a bit
c'était un
difficult
peu
because it
compliqué, il a
started to
commencé à
rain and we were
pleuvoir et
sliding
ça
all
glissait
over the
vraiment très,
place.
très fort.
And another new thing, the second touring car endurance race takes place at night.
Pour moi qui suis plutôt un rallyman, la
As a
course de nuit,
rally
ça me
man,
plaît.
driving at night pleases me. If it's raining and dark, then I like it. But we're really here to have fun rather than target a certain finishing position.
Vraiment viser une place.
In these tricky conditions, only the most courageous drivers will be able to stand out and aim for the top step of the podium. Unused to the cold conditions, the machine shows certain signs of weaknesses. And at the end of this second 1 hour race, it's again the Ford Capri 2600 RS number 44 that wins, making the drivers oh so happy.
We
didn't have any brakes left, no tyres either. The main thing was to get a second win. The car's worth 50,000 euros more now. The Spa Classic, where there's something for all the family. The 13,000 spectators present enjoyed the prevailing good atmosphere. The drivers weren't forgotten either, as the Drivers' Club provided meals before the races and was getting set for the 60s soirée on the Saturday.
On a voulu que les spectateurs
We wanted to make sure that everybody, from the most passionate fans to those just seeing these cars for the first time, had something different to do each hour. There were things to do for all the family, dad, mum and the kids. We want these to become family outings, events where you spend a whole weekend.
Familiaux où on vient passer un week-end complet.
The spectators had the opportunity to discover the Wall of Death, something new which impressed those small and larger alike. Also here, slot racing, a unique track in Europe composed of 8 parallel lines more than 30 metres long, allowing families to compete amongst themselves in scaled-down models of their favourite cars. And we mustn't forget the mobile swing band in the Automobilio village. In the heart of the paddock, this wheel merchandising zone groups together miniatures, clothes, books and other objects. It's the ideal place for the spectators to dive into the vintage atmosphere of the automobile world. And it's not far from the Alain Figueret boutique that we caught up with Ludovic Leboeuf, the president of the famous clothing line.
Spa, c'est incontournable, hein. Le plus beau circuit du monde.
Spa is a must. It's the most beautiful circuit in the world. It's an event that's growing all the time. We've been there since the start, and this is the 3rd edition, and we intend to be here for a long time to come. There are great fields here, a true community spirit that grows from race to race, season to season. You catch up with your friends at these things, and it's always shared wholeheartedly with the spectators. And the crowd size grows all the time, so it's a real fete for automobiles.
Donc c'est vraiment une grande fête de l'automobile.
Usually a competitor in the Peta Alto events at the wheel of a Jaguar Type E. Unfortunately, it's from trackside that he witnesses this one. He says our car had a little off at the Tour Auto, and we've not been able to get back in it. The car wasn't ready in time, so I'm here as a spectator and as a groupie of sorts for my friends who are competing.
Que nous sommes présents.
On track, in between the 2 touring car races, is the much anticipated 60s Endurance race. AC Cobras, Ford Shelbys, Jaguar Type E's and Porsche 911s will take to the asphalt for 2 hours. After dominating testing, the AC Cobra number 12 of Ludovic Caron soon gets clear of its opponents. A little before half distance though, an engine problem puts an end to the hopes of the Frenchman, leaving him hugely disappointed. As in the touring cars, the race is also decided in the pits, where there's a mandatory driver change. After 2 hours of intense racing, it's the Dutch duo of Karsten Leblanc and Jaap Sinker taking the honours.
I never won a motorsport event ever, and that's my first. I had to wait 40 years for this, so it's fantastic.
We leave the on-track action now, but stay in the 1960s for the gala evening that punctuated the action. The Spa Classic isn't just about racing, it's also about the joys of a weekend away. But the Sunday morning puts a dampener on things quite literally. If some are wary, the pole sitter for the race, Patrice Lafargue, with his CER2, isn't too worried. I love the circuit, and going off from pole is a source of great happiness. We'll try to be careful because these are beautiful cars. We're not there to do something silly, but we'll have a fight out there. Even in the rain, it'll be fun. It'll be a joy. Off the start, the driver of the Lola T298 BMW from 1979 gets the better of the two marches of Britain's Doug Hart and Paul Knapfield. But after 30 minutes of racing, the Frenchman hits engine trouble, and that relegates him to the back of the field.